You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, please go ahead and get us started.
Hey, I'm Zach. Really excited about our guest today. It's a repeat visit of the same company, but a different person. And the head honcho of the company, the CEO, the Dr. Alejandro Bernal. Dr. Alejandro is a dedicated veterinarian by training, is driven by a profound passion of recognizing the intrinsic value of animals in society and the transformative impact of innovation on veterinary industry. With a rich background as a former corporate executive for Mars and Zoetis, Dr. Bernal currently serves as the CEO of PetDx. His remarkable journey includes extensive experience in spearheading transformative investment agendas and cultivating unique, differentiated, and fast-growing businesses within the realm of animal health, pharma, diagnostics, and veterinary services. Dr. Alejandro, welcome to the show. Thank you for finding the time.
Thank you very much, both of you. It's an honor for me to be today with you in this podcast, and looking forward very much to the conversation.
Excellent. Well, PetDx, you are in the field of diagnosing cancer. Tell us a little bit about the product that you are representing, or products, and what are you proud of and excited about every day?
So I am extremely proud as part of PetDx to bring the power of genomics and unleash the power of genomics to improve the health of pets. I became a veterinarian and I decided to become a veterinarian when I was probably 5-6 years old. So now leading a company that brings decades of experience in genomics, and now to apply it to the detection of cancer in dogs at early stage, it's a fascinating opportunity. What we do is we apply the power of genomics to develop a non-invasive test, a liquid biopsy test from blood that can enable veterinarians to detect cancer early. So why cancer, and what does it mean early? So cancer, as it, well, you've had a couple of hosts in your show before, is the number one cause of death in dogs. So we're passionate about dedicating our innovative efforts to the number one cause of death in dogs. And it is also a huge cause of pain and negative emotions in the industry, not just for the families that own those dogs, but for the veterinary professionals. That in one of our studies, we found that only find cancer in without symptoms in less than 12% of cases. That means that 88% of times from in the US alone, 6 to 10 million dogs that are detected with cancer, 88% of those are detected after symptoms arrive. That means that for veterinary professionals, they find cancer when the options for acting in an effective way are very limited. With our test, with OncoK9, we can give veterinarians tools that through screening, they can detect cancer before symptoms arrive. And that changes dramatically the probability of success of the different treatment options that they may choose.
It's so interesting. I mean, we've had lots of conversations about early detections of cancers in canines and cats on the show, and it's really interesting to see the innovations spill over from human medicine into early detection in the veterinary world. I remember meeting your founder at an event several years ago, Dr. Andy, a lovely, lovely lady. I remember hearing her story about how she started the company. But the obvious question for me is, what's new at PetDx? What have you guys been up to since we last spoke to, I think it was your VP of sales on the show? What's new? What's got you excited? And maybe tell us a little bit about the journey of how you found yourself in the driver's seat here at PetDx.
Excellent. Thank you, Sean. I'm going to start maybe with the last one. What drove me to PetDx, as Ivan mentioned in my short bio, I've always been passionate about the value that innovation can bring to the health of animals and to the veterinary profession and to the very powerful and growing human-animal bond in families. And I saw all of that being very much at the center of the mission of PetDx. Very high science and applied to the biggest unmet problem in veterinary medicine. So that's what brought me here, and that makes me, so fortunate to be here. Then you ask me, what is new? I'm actually going to take a one step before going to what is new and tell you what has not changed. And you mentioned human health. Is we continue to be dedicated to the application of genomics. So cancer is a disease of the genome. So by definition, if you want to find cancer, you need genomics in order to have a test that allows veterinarians to have an ultimate answer of whether cancer is present or not, or the probability of cancer is high or not. There's no way around it. And in human health that you reference, where liquid biopsy is also a growing and interesting market, the fact that there is regulation has enabled that only companies with the power of genomics are the ones that offer products that are accepted by regulatory authorities in humans. So that hasn't changed. We continue to be committed to the application of genomics, but looking for ways to get greater traction and making our technology more accessible to veterinarians. We have continued to evolve the science of genomics and the application of genomics. And now what used to be a single test that was founded as OncoK9, our original product, now that flagship test is called OncoK9 DX, and that continues to be the only test in the industry that can be used in both healthy and sick dogs, and that has multiple use cases that have been widely clinically validated, whether it's for screening, for aiding diagnosis when the dogs are already sick and suspected of having cancer, or for post-treatment monitoring. But more recently, we developed a new test, and it's called OncoK9 Screen. This is a novel liquid biopsy test as well that provides a high sensitivity, meaning that we can catch, we have a high probability of finding 7 cancers that are very common and that are often difficult to find when vets are doing a physical exam alone. And the fact that we're using a novel and proprietary technology, still rooted on the power of genomics, we can make this test available very quickly with 2 to 4 days of turnaround time and at a much lower price point. That means that now with OncoK9 Screen, vets will be able to incorporate this into their regular wellness exams and then have a chance to catch those healthy dogs that are at high risk of developing cancer, and ideally, or hopefully, if they're developing cancer, identify the presence of cancer very early. So we're very excited about that.
I have a lot of medical questions. So I'm in one of our clinics in urgent care in Moncton. Just saw a patient before jumping on this podcast, 13-year-old German Shepherd with clinical signs of vomiting for the last 3 days. So that immediately screams cancer to me. So just because of the history, did some x-rays. Owner wasn't really willing to jump into the blood work, symptomatically treated for it. I didn't see any signs of, organomegaly, no free fluid in the abdomen, but this just screams cancer to me. So is this going to be one of these tests finally when the owners ask us and say, didn't you find cancer or not on the blood work? And we're always, well, it's not necessarily how that works. There's no cancer test. So now there is a cancer test. What 7 cancers you're talking about? And can you walk us through a normal day-to-day application for someone like myself in the exam room when I'm thinking I want to do this? And what is going to be the price point maybe for the customer? Are we talking in exclusive sort of thousands of dollars, or is it going to be one of the panel at some point that we can actually run it and be more targeted?
So you're bringing a great example, Ivan, because what used to be something that didn't exist now exists. And it falls right onto our OncoK9 DX, which is still the original and strongest platform, because once the dogs are experiencing symptoms, then we have the only test that can be used in those with symptoms when cancer is suspected. So in OncoK9 DX, we have demonstrated that we can detect up to 30 cancers that are, that information is widely available in our website, and with a very high level of sensitivity. And what's very important, Ivan, a very low percentage of false rate positive detection. Cancer detection is something that we're in the early stage of educating the market about the fact that now there is a blood test that can tell you if cancer is present or not, something that didn't used to exist. Now, not all tests that can be used to detect cancer in blood are the same. And often there are two numbers that make the big difference between tests, and that is sensitivity, the percentage of those cases in which cancer is present that it is detected, and specificity, which one in specificity is a very high number, or the opposite way is a very low number of false detection rates or false positives. We have the lowest, and our detection rates are comparable to those in human, and that gives veterinarians the peace of mind that if they're going to go into a potentially cancer being present kind of conversation, that our tests offer the lowest probability of that conversation being a false alarm conversation. And that's one of the biggest conversations. And now, how can you understand that better for your listeners? Is, we're all trained in science, and we know that science is a reflection of the size of the studies, the journals where they have been published, and then for the conclusions that are derived from those studies. So my encouragement to you and to all your listeners is that in an environment that is non-regulated, to go and access all of the high regarded publications and compare the studies and the number of dogs that have been enrolled, the differences between the treatment and the control groups, et cetera, things that we've all learned at school. And as an example, for OncoK9 screen, like I referenced earlier, in the article that is going to be published, is almost 2,000 dogs that were analyzed, and where the cohorts of the healthy and sick dogs are very natural and all treated exactly the same way. So yes, the case that you mentioned is one in which the great news to the industry is that there is a tool now, non-invasive, for vets to have one more tool in their toolbox in order to either confirm or discard the presence of cancer in those symptomatic dogs.
I'm going to replay back Ivan's question that was missed and add another one to it. So cost, right? So lots of veterinarians listen to our show. Lots of them are looking for new innovative ways to take treatment to their pet parents. So cost, and then competition, because all of a sudden it seems like the area that you're working in is heating up, and it seems like there's new entries into your space. So could you talk to us about cost and then also competition?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. I missed that question earlier. So the price to veterinarian that can be found through our website and contacting PetDx directly for OncoK9 DX, again, this is the flagship test that can be used in either healthy or sick dogs for screening, aiding diagnosis, or recurrence monitoring, is sold to veterinarians for $249 to the vet. And then OncoK9 Screen, which is the only screening test that can give the veterinarian either a high or a low probability of cancer. So many other tests in the market have more than 2 reports to the vet, and oftentimes in more than one of those reports, the answer is retest or indeterminate. With OncoK9 Screen, there's no retest and no indeterminate. There's either high probability or low probability. This is going back to the origin. Because we're the only company that applies genomics to the development of our test, we can get to a definite answer to veterinarians. That test is available to veterinarians now for $129, which is why, again, we're excited to put this in the hands of veterinarians to let them know that they can easily incorporate this into their senior wellness plans.
One more quick question for you. So, another thing that people like as much as innovation is making money. So what are the retail, or what typically does a veterinarian see for a margin on these tests as they deploy them to their hospitals?
It varies, Sean, and we are careful not to try to dictate or signal prices to pet owners. But what we do encourage veterinarians, and we've seen a very positive response about that, is that if they see OncoK9 Screen or DX as a means for first and foremost, better medicine by having more information to provide better recommendations. And also, as a way of if cancer is, if the result of our test is either cancer signal detected or not detected or high or low probability of cancer, what comes from there is, you're saying, veterinary clinics, are also interested in, of course, maintaining a successful business. From the, business perspective, the bad news of a dog that has been found with cancer is that after that there are follow-up diagnostic tests and treatment that can be other sources of revenue for the clinic.
That's an excellent way to answer that question. And from the practical, how do we get this stuff point of view, are you working with any centralized laboratories, or do we send the samples directly to you? And the main one, do you work with Canada? Because that's where we sit.
So we can receive tests from Canada, and we do have a central.
That was the right answer.
Otherwise, we don't air episode. If you're not available in Canada, you're not allowed to go on air. Just kidding.
Yeah, so in the way that we make our test, one of the criteria that is very important for us in how we have developed OncoK9, both DX and Screen, is that it needs to be super easy and convenient for veterinarians, and we target only veterinarians in our promotion. And what it means is that we send a kit to veterinarians that all they need to do is take a simple blood draw and just mix the tubes, keep it at room temperature. Don't request, this is very important. This is in line to your earlier question, Sean, about competition. Don't require fasting prior to the test, which many tests do require at least 4 hours of fasting. So our test does not require prior fasting from the dog. So in a dog fasted or non-fasted, the vet collects the blood at room temperature and then ship it over to our central lab in San Diego, California. And then we process the test and provide the results through our unique platform in a very simple way. So it's a very convenient, and in the life of clinics that are super busy and complicated, the last thing that we would want is to see veterinary technicians having to spend time centrifuging or keeping cold chain control of test tubes instead of seeing patients. So that's how we operate. And that's the convenience part of OncoK9, both DX and Screen.
That's excellent. So where do people find you? Are you going to be at VMX and in Vegas in this season? And how do people find you and how do they sign up?
2 websites, oncok9.com and PetDx.com. And there's plenty of, that's number one, a great source of information. When I mention our commitment to science and clinical and scientific validation, people will be able to find at PetDx.com copies of our 8 peer-reviewed publications that we've had since March of 2021, and then also access to information as to how they can have access to our kits and the other training tools and support that they can get from us. We will be at VMX and also at Western, so looking forward to seeing many of your listeners there and having an opportunity to engage further in dialogue and in seeing how we can enable them with the right tools, with reliable test tools in making cancer more actionable. Because bottom line, that's what we believe in. Cancer is the number one cause of death, as I mentioned before. But because of that, we need to move it from being a scary finding that is only found accidentally when it is too late, to being something that veterinarians feel empowered to seek and to look for more proactively with the right tools, with OncoK9, Screen, and DX, so that they're in a position where even emotionally, they are acting and making recommendations to their pet owners from a position of knowledge, of information, when the disease is still at a stage when they have more to do for those dogs.
Well, Dr. Alejandro, pleasure to have you here. Very interesting space, lots of innovation, and I think it looks like a bright future for your particular product in the industry. We like to wrap up the show every week the same way. We get a couple of quick questions for you before we're going to let you go. First is a YouTube video, a TED Talk, something that you found inspiring on your journey from an executive to now the head of a startup.
Thank you. Yes, glad to. One of my favorite podcasts, in addition to yours, is a podcast by Dr. Michael Gervais. It's called Finding Mastery. And as part of that, I found an interview of an author called John Gordon. And he published recently a book called The One Truth. And I was tremendously inspired by that book in the sense that it reminds us all about the power of our minds and how, in the way that we approach our minds, we can unlock, power, effectiveness, and positive influence on ourselves and others around us.
Excellent. Very interested to listen to that. And the second question that we ask all the listeners, is there someone in our industry that you would recommend to be invited on this podcast?
Yeah, so I don't have a specific name, but I do have an institution where I'm sure you'll be able to get the right name. Is, as you heard me talk today, I was trained in science. I'm a believer in the power and the rigor of science. And I think science starts with the right observation at the right scale and applying the right discipline in order to document events and conclusions that can evolve and advance the industry. And the Morris Animal Foundation, to me, is a great example of that. One of the work that they've done is around the golden retriever lifetime study. And this is a great example of that. In their 2023 report, they documented how 75% of the deaths that occurred within that population were due to cancer. And a large majority of them caused by hemangiosarcoma, which you both know what a terrible outcome that type of cancer can have in dogs, and seeing it so frequently, again, in very, documented in a very large pool of dogs. I think it's a fantastic demonstration of commitment to scientific evidence that can change our perceptions and our awareness about, again, things that are hard and difficult, but they are a reality that is not going to disappear or go away, but rather, as an industry, we need to move into how to approach it in a more proactive and effective way.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.